It's time for the Douglas Coleman Show. Mr. Smooth and Savvy is joined by guests from all walks of life, from the entertainment industry to authors to political and social commentators, the famous and not so famous, the controversial and the light and fluffy. We have it all. Now, here's Douglas Coleman.
Okay, please welcome to the Douglas Coleman Show, Stephen Benedict. Hi, Stephen. How are you?
Hi, how are you guys doing? I appreciate you guys having me.
Well, thank you for coming on. I'm not quite sure where to start. Your bio is pretty amazing. It looks like you've done a lot of things. And so, just to be clear, are you primarily a professional athlete or a speaker or both? Or what do you call yourself as far as a career?
That's a good question. I mean, I think it's a collaboration of everything, and it's more of I want to lean towards life experience for me. I'm just really trying to utilize as many things as I have on my plate and all the gifts that I've been given to the best of my capability. So, at the forefront, I am training a lot, and my athletics does take a bulk of what I do, but now more so than ever, what I do off the track also translates as well. So I really make sure that anything that I do get involved in, that it makes sense in my core values of who I am, what I stand for. So not really running off on tangents. Okay.
So are you training for the Olympics?
Yes, I'm training for the 2021 games, and not sure, but I'm thinking it'll be my last games, and then thinking about transitioning into another sport, which there's a couple options on the plate right now, but I'll definitely transition to something else because athletics has been a very, very big part of who I am and what I've done for the dominant part of my life. So it's something that keeps me healthy, keeps me thriving.
Were you in previous Olympic Games?
So I qualified for the 2012 Games and wound up tearing my hamstring and not being able to compete. So not a very good experience. Yeah.
Well, that's unfortunate.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Well, I did want to ask you about your childhood because that's prevalent in your bio, and it looks like that was a pretty rough time for you. You want to just tell us a little about that story?
Sure. So, I mean, it's been a roller coaster of a ride, and I was put into foster care at 4 months due to neglect and just unstable situation with my mother. And then I was put back into her hands not too long after that. My brother was born, and we were living in and out of motel rooms, very unstable situations, very unprotected, not being provided for, and highly abused by her boyfriend at the time. And my grandparents found out about it. They took us in for a short period of time, but at their age, trying to handle 2 toddlers was an unfeasible aspect of life for them. And so we went back into foster care, which was our best option at the time. We went back into foster care for another 6 years and bounced around up and down the East Coast, and finally landed in a foster home for about 3 years. And then we were blessed enough to be adopted at the ages of 8 and 6 by my mother, who was a second grade school teacher, impacted a unsurmountable amount of children, both here in the States and nationally, internationally in Japan. And then my father was ex-Vietnam. He was a Marine and also went on to work for Merrill Lynch. They exposed us to everything and gave us pretty much the second chance at life, from sports to music to art to education, and just opened our horizons for things. And unfortunately, our time with them was pretty short-lived, as we lost both of them in our early mid-20s. My mother to bone marrow cancer. She lost her battle within a year. And then my father, not too long after that, about 3.5 years after that, my father was in an accident and wound up being put into an irreversible coma, which after a week of diagnosis me being the oldest, had to make the executive decision to take him off life support.
Oh.
So it's been a ride, and there's been a lot of lessons learned, a lot of hard lessons learned. But for the most part and everything, you have your dark periods, but I really feel like it's how we walk through those is what shapes us to do the things that we're capable to do.
How long ago was that?
My mother passed in 2005. My father passed in 2009.
Oh, okay. So it's been well over 10 years.
It's been a bit. It's been a bit. Yeah.
What did you do?
Yeah.
I mean, after that happened, obviously that's devastating for somebody at any age, but you were in just your 20s at that point, yeah?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
it was
what did you
do?
It
was a tough situation. It was a battle at that point. That post period was a really dark time for me. I was trying to live this elite athlete life, and then also kind of split off into another person of kind of drowning my emotions and not really dealing with the impact of things, and going out with the wrong people, being in the wrong circles, and just doing very toxic things that weren't conducive for an athlete to also having to perform. And at that particular time, the only thing that I really honed to and I really gripped to is the only thing that kept me alive was really one, I was severely protected by a higher purpose, and then also two, my body was in such extreme condition to really flush out everything and to maintain the abuse I was doing to it at that time. And it really came to a pinnacle, and it came to a head in the point where one of those lies had to die, and it had to be broken off. Otherwise, there was going to be an outcome in which I probably wasn't going to be left around anymore. And that's what happened. And it was really, I believe and see on my aspect from my own journey, and what I believe in is that it was really divine intervention for me, and put me on the right path, and has just really accelerated my life in a lot of areas. Being able to be and using my story as a catalyst and as a voice to really make some really tangible changes into a lot of lives coming up.
You're listening to Mr. Smooth and Savvy right here on the Douglas Coleman Show. We'll be right back after these commercial messages.
DJC Music and DJC Productions are pleased to announce a brand new website. We have started a listing website for radio show hosts as well as potential show guests. This is a meeting site where hosts and guests can come together. Show hosts can list their show and types of guests they're interested in booking. Potential guests can list their talents, bio, accomplishments, or anything they feel makes them an interesting radio show guest. There are no recurrent payments, only a one-time $5 listing fee. Your listing will stay up until you decide to cancel. Previous guests of The Douglas Coleman Show are welcome to submit their guest listing free of charge. Go to radiohostsandguests.com. That's radiohostsandguests.com.
Love coffee, huh? But wait a minute. It seems like every time you finish a cup of coffee, you get all of these side effects along with it. Heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, acid reflux. As the world's first and only organic acid-free coffee, Tyler's Coffee is able to provide a healthier option in the solution for more than 100 million individuals who have sensitive stomachs or suffer from acid-related modalities. This is Tyler's acid-free coffee. Coffee without the consequences.
Hi, this is John Morgan, production supervisor for DJC Productions. You're listening to The Douglas Coleman Show.
This might sound like a strange question, but if someone wants to be a professional athlete, in your case, you were a track and field, right? A sprinter? Okay, well, obviously it takes a while to train and get conditioned and do that. You don't just decide that and do it overnight. How does one make a living while you're doing all of that?
Yeah, that's a great question. You have to be very savvy, and you have to be very entrepreneurish, and you have to be creative in your approach. And I really believe you just have to, treat yourself as a business, because unlike other areas where you're selling products and you're selling, things within the market, you are the product and you are the brand. So you have to approach it in that way, and being able to establish yourself a lot more than just an athlete, and a pretty face. You have to really do the due diligence. What do you stand for? Know your core values. Build things around that so that it is all in alignment with who you are and what you stand for, and really don't budge on that. I think that if you do that consistently and you keep building that brand, that personal voice, and build it around your story. I think storytelling is a very it's a lost art now, and but it's coming back to the point where people want truth, people want reality, and they want to know that they're not alone in a process of things. So it's a process of self-development and self-reflection and self-awareness. And I think when you put all those things together, that you have a very strong brand. So, in answering that question, it's definitely a process, and you definitely have to know yourself as an athlete and what you stand for, and then try to build counterparts around that bring value to other people's lives.
Well, looking at your bio again, it looked like you were featured in various magazines. You could probably make money doing modeling, right?
Sure, and I've done plenty of that. I've been in commercials. I've done campaigns for brands and all those types of things. But they're very, that area is very unstable, right? So it's not very frequent. You can, and it depends on what's demand, and especially in the market that is happening right now. That's a very scarce play to be involved in. You have to have several other different streams of things coming in, that all make sense, that that something will get caught up on. So when you look at a brand, or when you look at my brand, there's several different pieces. I have my business aspect, in which I speak to corporations, and I speak to C-level CEOs, and talk about due diligence and work ethic and fluidity in the workspace, and how to get the most out of their employees in bringing value and things like that. But then you also have like my charity piece, my charity arm, in which impacting foster kids and adoption space, and developing the skills that'll benefit these kids that are aging out and stuff. So there's a lot of variable pieces there that need to be put into place in order for like all of these things to come in. I don't think it's like, hey, let me just go out and get an agent and then I'm gonna be in a bunch of commercials. I think that's a very not a very tactful approach to take. I think your brand should then attract the other thing.
Okay, well, I was just thinking that, for example, somebody who wants to be a professional football player or a basketball player, baseball player, there is an organization with that. But is there much of an organization for track and field and sprinting and Olympic type activities?
Not really. Not really. You have your governing bodies, like you have USATF, which is the governing body for USA track and field, and then for the other countries they have their governing bodies, but they don't really play a part in things until like the national meets, the races come, and like the Olympics come. Then all the subsidizing and all the monetary aspects, they play a part in covering that travel aspect and things. But up until that point, you need to really have an agent that will be able to bring in a shoe deal or contract and things like that. But even with having an agent to do that, the only thing that they really are focused on is either getting you a shoe deal, which is near and far, and that can happen, easily. But the contracts are really not that lucrative, unless you're the top in the world and you're running world record times, and also they'll handle your meet schedules and stuff. Outside of that, a lot of track and field athletes are grinding it every day, and they're, especially a lot of Olympic athletes. It's a tough game to be in, and a lot of them don't have the money to sustain their own training, their own living, and that's why I'm a very big believer in, you have to have a brand, you have to have a voice, and you have to have something else going on that's coinciding with that in order to sustain your training. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to do it. It's a sad thing, but the marketing and the PR behind the sport is very scarce.
Yeah, I would think so. Although these days there is more opportunity now that we have all of this social media presence, where people who become notable in track and field or any of those can create, what do they call it? Be an influencer on social media.
Correct.
Which does bring in money for people. Some of these people are making quite a lot of money, which that wasn't available, even 20 years ago. So, I mean, there is that other avenue, I suppose, for people who are aspiring to be Olympic athletes. Yeah.
Of course. And I totally agree. And I think in that presence of things, I think it's great for individuals that they can capitalize off of that. I know that I've capitalized off of that particular situation on many occasions, and it's very beneficial. And then, there's also the aspect of, making sure that you're portraying yourself right on that stuff too, because it's a very skewed identity in which we play with in the social media realm. So.
Well, yeah, no argument from me. And, you really got to be careful these days too. I mean, you really got to sort of divide your personal life from your public persona. Now, that's always been the case, even long before social media. But these days, it's just too easy to mix the two together. It's much harder to divide it out. So you've got to almost keep separate accounts. And like, if you want a personal account, keep it private. And then you have your public page that everybody can go on. So there is a bit of a balancing act to it. Yeah, absolutely. Let's just hit on your book 1 second. We're kind of running out of time here. Mm-hmm. Your book is called Good Morning Superstar, where intentions set the tone, but habits align you to shine. Tell us a little bit about the book, a little quick synopsis, if you would. Yeah,
sure. The approach I took to this book was very simplistic. It's a 90-day book. Every day you do a different chapter. There's a quote followed by a parable written by me, and how that particular quote has affected me on that particular day, or how I used it to better mine or set the tone for my day. And then there's 2 questions, a taking action question and an empowering question that follow up. And I'm a very big believer in the sense that when we ask ourselves better questions, we get better results. So it's really about setting the tone for your day, putting yourself in the right path, and knowing that when you put your feet on the floor the first thing in the morning, your race has started. So we need to start and set the pace in order to finish that day in a progressive manner, and know that you've done the best that you can with what you had and the resources you had on that particular day in that particular time. That's the simplest synopsis of the book. And a lot of people have liked the approach. I think it's very easy, and it's a easy read, but it's effective. And I think in the time that we're living right now, everybody's on the go, go, go. I really wanted to have something to start their day off, and the best time to do it is the first 20 minutes in the morning, where your mind is the most absorbent and the most molding aspect of your day.
Okay, great. And the book is out now?
Yes, the book is out. It's sold on Amazon, anywhere you can buy it, but Amazon's great. People have really been enjoying it. I've been getting a lot of feedback from it. So, And the best part about it is that all the proceeds are going to impact foster families and aging out youth for the holidays, for a more sustainable holiday. So please go pick it up. Write a review on the book. Let me know what you think about it. I'm very responsive, and I'd love to hear the feedback.
Great, thanks so much. And that's really nice that the money is going towards foster care and
foster families and aging out youth.
Aging out youth. Okay, so that's super. Last question, quick, and then I'll let you go. Do you have a website you want to give out?
Sure. Yes. My website is www.stevieb.com, STEVIEY.com, and all my socials on there, and some of the other projects that I'm involved in and building out, like Fostering Success, which is my nonprofit that'll be launching next year. And then I'm all over social. So, like I said, you guys can find me anywhere.
Okay, super. Well, Stephen, thanks so much for coming on and sharing your story. Best of luck with everything you're doing.
I appreciate your time. Thank you very much for having me.